Welcome. Today on Webmasters FM, I got Mike McAllister, designer, site builder, company owner, and now educator. Am I getting all of it, all of the buckets there?
Worker,
Woodworker.
photographer, or whatever you want. Just throw them on it, like everything. I do everything.
Yeah. I guess people probably know you as like Ollie WP and a few other things, but maybe you can give for people who don't know you, the one sentence, like, what is Ollie? What is your role?
Yep, Ollie is a WordPress block theme, and it has a pro counterpart that is effectively a design library, which makes building pages in the site editor super quick and painless. So we're kind of one of the most kind of on the forefront of the block building thing and kind of modern WordPress site building. We're kind of playing in that space.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of like the de facto reigning champs of block themes, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
competition is out there, but it seems like anytime I see people talking about it, they're always talking about Ollie. They're not really talking about block themes specifically. Like it's like its own brand.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I think part of that was being early and kind of relentless and like not trying to own that space, but just like being serious about creating a good product there. But then I think there's also this effect that happens once you build like a bunch of sites in full site editing. Full site editing is like the kind of name for all of these modern WordPress features like global styles, patterns, and all that stuff, block themes. Once you've built enough sites in that, you kind of realize that like you don't need a bunch of block themes because of all the controls and all the styles and everything a lot of it comes from WordPress itself, and then Ollie's kind of just like a light style layer. So like, it's kind of opinionated, but not. You can pair it up or down. So this idea that like, we used to have all these themes that you could drastically change your site. It's like, I don't think we really are going to need those. And I think once you start building with full site editing, you realize that where it's like, I'll just use Ollie because I can pair it up or down as I need, So it's kind of a benefit to us, but
You're not making Ollie for plumbers and Ollie for electricians and all of that.
I mean, you can. So, there's I see all kinds of people come through Ollie support and Ollie Slack channel. There's teachers, there's people making the most random websites you could imagine with Ollie. And so that's awesome to see, it's cool.
Yeah. It's been an interesting ride. I feel like the last time we talked was, I don't know, almost a year ago,
Probably.
guess. It's been an interesting year in terms of development in the core platform. Do you feel like a
Yeah.
lot's improved in the block theme world?
Well, I'll say that I think a lot this time last year, before things kind of slowed down and got a little wild, I think we were like in a pretty good spot to begin with. And so that really helped. For me, I think there's a lot of those like just like next level things that would really make the experience better for everyone. I've talked about them ad nauseum, responsive controls and better navigation and admin redesign. These things I think are the like once you put those in there, then you really can build around this thing anything you want. You can build your own toolkit around it, and then we're in a great spot. But all things considered, we don't get a ton of people complaining in Ollie Sport saying like, I can't do this or this or this. Like, people always find a way. In WordPress, everyone finds a way to do what they're trying to do. And I think a lot of people, even in this past year with how things have been, a lot of people are looking at the block editor differently and full site editing differently than they had maybe the previous 6 months or a year. I think they're kind of seeing the power of it, and it's almost undeniable at this point.
Yeah.
So I think that helps too.
Yeah, I've been trying to pay attention to Reddit a little bit more, just like at work. There, you get a lot of people there for WordPress. Like if you want to find like the pulse of WordPress, you'll go on Reddit. And I like shared recently, like people every week they post, hey, is FSC good? Should I use it? And it used to be like 90% negative. And now it's like 50-50 probably. And it's like half of the people are like, honestly, you can get pretty far with it. It's a lot easier. You need like 50 less plugins. It's, people are pretty positive. And somebody was like, no, the people that are negative are just not vocal. And I was like, no, the people that are negative about Gutenberg, they're pretty dang vocal.
They're very vocal, actually.
The fact that we're not hearing them, I think, and just negativity in general is more vocal. So the fact that there's less of it about it, like
totally,
it's clearly settling in at a certain level.
That's interesting. Reddit's not something, I always forget that Reddit exists as like a platform. And then even more so that like there's like a WordPress community there, but every once in a while I'll see like in our site analytics, which I rarely check, but I'll see like a thread from Reddit. Somebody like mentioned Ollie, and I'm like, wow, I should maybe keep an eye on this thing as a platform.
It's decent, but there's a lot of AI responses now. Like people just like throw, and
Oh,
you'll still see the bottom where it's like the end of their like response is like, is there anything else I can help you with, question mark, which is like
yeah,
clearly the chatbot's
yeah, yeah,
response
yeah,
to them,
yeah.
and they just pasted it in, so it's getting a little less valuable. But I do the WordPress and the WooCommerce like subreddits. I'll like check them once in a while just to see if there's like things, and you kind of get a sense of like the scope of WordPress when you see Reddit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, an interesting use case of AI would be to scrape all those and summarize the things that are going on in there, so you didn't have to dig in and read it all yourself.
Yeah, we are doing some of
Just
that
yeah, that's
internally. We're
good.
trying to figure out, we're tracking like how can you scrape Reddit for WooCommerce stuff. It's, yeah, there's a lot of interesting use cases that you don't expect.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen yeah, we've all talked about AI, and there's like the degradation of like commentary with comments, or it's like people can't even comment anymore. It's like it like burns my brain, where it's like, and you can see it like you said. Sometimes it's like the little message at the bottom, like Claude says, Claude can make mistakes. And sometimes you'll see that posted, and it's like, dude, you didn't even delete that off the end of the thing. It's like, I don't know.
Well, the reason I want to talk today is because you launched, as of now, 2 new free, right, courses on
Yeah.
Ollie.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess what's the story of that?
Yep. So I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, maybe not, know Frank Klein, a longtime WordPress developer. He worked at HumanMade. He worked at Automatic for a while. He's done all kinds of stuff in the WordPress space. A few years ago, he made, maybe last year, I can't remember, a few years ago, made two development courses for WordPress, modern WordPress. So there's like a block development course and then block theme development course. And he had them as a paid course for a while, but recently, he's decided to leave the WordPress space and go off and try some new things. And so he reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to take these on and kind of keep them? And he's like, I don't care if you charge for them or open them up. And I was like, yeah, of course. I thought about it, looked through them, and I was like, is this like still relevant content? But then I was like, no, these are, because he did a great job of kind of running through sequentially all the things you would need to know about blocks or block themes. And in those videos, there's a lot of little kind of nuggets that are hard to find if you're just searching through docs or trying to pull together videos. So to have a coherent course put together, I thought was like incredibly valuable. And to me, I was like, obviously, I was just going to open source them, put them on the site for free, and just make them available to everyone in perpetuity. So, yeah, that's what we did. We took them, and it took a long time to upload those and create the posts and do summaries and subtitle. All that stuff had to be done manually. Some of it I was able to use AI to do summaries and things like that, but in terms of getting it into WordPress, I had tried different ways of like automating it through CLI, and so it just was like the only way to do it was manually. So I did it.
Did you actually, because I remember I went through a lot of the free lessons of his because I was kind of just seeing the space and stuff. And I interacted with him a lot online, and my cat keeps attacking me. Go away. And he knows his stuff really well. He has definitely the experience. He's really good at teaching and explaining, but he's also, I would say, more on the advanced side of development, and he's very opinionated. Like he had very strong opinions of like, this is the right way, do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
How did the content sort of align with like your target audience when you actually went through it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point, because it is more advanced than the Ollie end user typically is probably not building their own custom blocks per se. But I think with the theme course that he made, it is developer-y, but there are parts of it where he's talking through a lot of the interface stuff and how the relationship between a lot of these features with global styles and patterns and how these things kind of play together. And I think for that reason, and with the block course, I was like, no, these are just like, if we're going to be, Ollie is going to be kind of one of the people out front in this modern space, modern WordPress space, even if we're kind of more in the block theme, no code space, I think it's still valuable to have these as a resource, especially a free one for people to say. And like, people could say like, oh, he's doing it for SEO or traffic. Maybe, I doubt I'm going to get much juice from that, but I just thought Ollie's free. A lot of people are using it. We have like 5,000 users. Like, this could be great to expose all these people to this, even if it's like slightly outside of their comfort zone. But at least it's there and it's free, and they can use it or don't use it,
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest issues with full site editing is just that lack of information. So, a lot of people in WordPress do start, and just developers in general, they want to start free. They want to play with something. They want to learn.
Yeah.
They don't really want to like invest a bunch of money up front to try something new. So it's probably just good for the ecosystem. Like, even if they don't end up using Ollie, then they're at least joining the ecosystem, and that builds kind of like extra people to kind of contribute and grow things. And also, full site editing is weird in that it's really appeals to both non-technical users and really technical users. So like I'll use Ollie on my sites, but I'll still build custom I'm doing both of it. So it's kind of like, there's not like, oh, this is Ollie is some sort of like, theme forest theme where you have to like do everything through some janky settings page or something. Like, it's the same tech stack that somebody at Human Made or 10up is using for their site, because it's under the hood, like all the same functionality and extensibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what, like, you're right. It is such an interesting thing, full site editing. It is both of those worlds. And I don't feel like we're still quite seeing the, like, really people like exploiting it for what it can do fully yet. You're starting to see more of it. Like you just mentioned Human Made, I chatted with them at PressConf, and they're really like kind of digging into it and building a lot of really cool stuff for it. And that's important because they're building sites for like, big time clients. And, they had a lot of questions for me about, not just Ollie, but like building in this space. So that's a great sign for the ecosystem. And it means that like they're seeing, I can dig into this thing and build some really badass thing that feels native and something I couldn't do before. And that other developers see it and do that. But yeah, you're right as well. It's like the content out there, and there's like, there's stuff on the .org and the education site, but there's still just is like not enough, and not high enough caliber of deep develop, like the modern content, is like very video based and it's like well produced and all that. We just don't have a ton of that. And so it's a bummer. I think it's kind of prevents people from digging in too much.
Yeah, I went to build a custom block for someone this weekend, like super simple. And I sat down and I AI, vibe coded this custom block. But I also like very much like set up everything exactly the way I wanted. And I knew like all the terminology to use and I did all that stuff. And it worked really well, other than when I gave it like bad instructions and sent it down rabbit holes. But like, it was really insane to be able to say like, I have an idea for a block and I'm going to take 5 minutes with AI versus like build it myself. But it was also extremely simple. Like, it was not anything fancy. And I don't think I would have gotten as far if I didn't already know how blocks work and how to do it and stuff. I mean, do you think about like AI educating people, how WordPress is going, and think like, are people going to even need to learn this stuff in the future? Or like, is that a concern?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, yeah, AI is great at a lot of stuff. If you're setting up a block like that and you kind of get it where it needs to be and you're doing some light touch stuff, it's like really good at that. Or even just writing like frameworky stuff like PHP or React. It's great at that because it doesn't have to dig into the innards of WordPress too far to do that stuff. But I've found, I was just trying to just out of curiosity, I tried building a custom block recently, and it was like a ConvertKit newsletter block. And it included like writing the block, and then I needed to save an API key. So I was trying to tap into the, how in blocks you can have like block settings, you can have a sidebar panel. Yeah. It's like the one that, it's not like the regular sidebar settings. It's like the one that is like, you got to pin it and whatever. That like, it did not know what to do with that at all. Like, it totally lost the plot at that point.
Yeah.
From there, it was just making stuff up. Like, and so I think that's unfortunate because it doesn't know how to get into that part of WordPress. It doesn't know what to do with it. And That wasn't that deep into WordPress. That was like, think about like 10 levels of it or 5 levels of it. That was like level 2.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know what to do with this. So I think having the context, like you're saying, helps greatly, because then like I can get it past that part and it doesn't have to think about that, and then it can just worry about some other things. But that was concerning to me, where it was like, okay, if I'm having trouble with this and I know what's going on, like this idea that like, there's a lot of people who are saying like, oh, you just be able to like get in there and vibe code it, or you won't need to know this. It's like, no, you probably will. If you want to make some like badass stuff that really like works and feels native and like is maintainable and scalable, you're gonna have to know
Yeah.
the underbelly of it. Otherwise, like, you're going to be lost the second it doesn't work, when WordPress 7 drops and you're like, this thing's busted. So I do think there's a value to it, and it kind of goes back to these videos where it's like, yeah, this course is relevant because it gives you a baseline understanding of all this stuff.
Yeah, I definitely, like when I built a block, it didn't do anything fancy. Like it was literally like, and input some numbers and then like show on the front end. So it didn't have like, usually when somebody's like, all right, I'm building a site and I need something custom, it's like, I need some sort of carousel and it needs to like grab posts from the database and it needs to like give them a thing, a post picker. And it's like all those stuff you would use like ACF or ACF blocks for. And that, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't think somebody's going to open their WordPress site and be like, hey, chatbot, make me a custom thing. Like, I think most of that stuff that's like low hanging fruit is already solved in the site editor. Like I can already do a query loop. I can already have like good patterns and stuff like that. It really is like the harder stuff where you're like, oh man, like I really need to understand all this like ridiculous JavaScript stuff that I used to do in PHP.
100%. Like, you and I don't know, this last year, year before, we were kind of talking back and forth a little bit about like a mega menu builder of sorts. Like that is a good example of something where it's like AI is not going to help you build that really. It help you a little bit, but you have to know how this thing connects to this thing and the template parts work and how this and this and that, like all these things you have to plug together. Or like the, Ollie Pro 2.0 that we recently released. I was able to use AI to help with a lot of the like UI and kind of moving stuff around and like some data stuff that would be beyond my reach. But knowing the deeper parts of even block themes, of how to write a template part to the database and things like that, it just like couldn't do it. It didn't know how to do it. And so, and then like you understand why, because then you're digging and trying to find the docs yourself. And like, I can't even find anything on how template parts are written in WordPress. So like, no wonder it can't find it. So yeah, there's a lot to learn. And I was thinking today, I was like, what can you do to solve that? Can you just like create like your own model that just like feasts heavily and deeply on WordPress and WordPress alone? Is that how you do it? Is it like, I don't know. What do you think? How do we get past that?
Yeah, we were talking about this internally because when I was building that block, I wanted font control settings in the sidebar. And what I love about like WordPress and blocks, like I want color settings. It's like, cool, one line of code in my block JSON. I get all the color settings. It's all the colors from my theme. Like it's all like that part. You're like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like super awesome. I want font settings. And it starts like making up things. And it's just like making up font options. None of it works. It starts failing. And then I'm like, all right, I gotta like load the actual documentation and like read it. And it's not in there because it's all like experimental. So then you're like, and I was like, screw it. I just like found some old code of mine and was like, how did I do this a year ago? Because I did it before. And like, that's the route I had to go. And recently we were trying to like at WooCommerce, I did a thing where we like made like AI friendly versions of the docs. So it's like really lean markdown that you can just like feed right in and it can give it all that context and stuff like that. And then it's like we look over at WordPress and you're like, there's 20 years of documentation. It's not really up to date. It's in like 5 different locations. It's in GitHub. It's in a bunch of different like website blogs. It's all these different places. And I do think like it's going to have to become a priority for the platform to say like, hey, this is how developers expect things to work. And it works really well when they go to like other tools. And all this stuff is already there. Like the LLM already knows how to write React.
Yeah.
And it's because it's the documentation. And so like documentation and training materials like aren't really going to go away because you still need to create all that stuff and you still need to make it really ingestible. And then it's like, and then you got to wait for it to get indexed and get into the next model and all that stuff. And so I feel like it's a long road ahead and like it has to be a priority. Otherwise people are going to be like, man, this thing can code this, but it can't code WordPress. And then WordPress has been around for 20 years. Like, and it's
Yeah.
pulling in crappy examples from everybody's bad websites they've built over the last, decade. Yeah, it
Yes.
seems like a thing that has to be fixed like at the platform level, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And that I feel like that has become more clear to me even just in the past like few months as I'm like experimenting with different code editors and Claude Code and Cursor and all these different things. It's like those can get as good as they want and it doesn't solve this problem, really.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is a bummer. I feel like a total failure when I have to go to the docs for a few reasons. One, I feel like at this point, I pride myself on like being able to figure out most things without it. But then I have AI, and if I can't get through that, and then I have to go to the docs, I'm like super bummed because I know I'm going to be on a hunt in the WordPress docs, and it's
Yeah.
like you said, it's like, is this going to even work? I end up going back to my code as well because I'm like, I know this worked at one point, and it still kind of works, or at least I can pull that and feed that to Claude to see if it can work with that. It's almost like you need yeah, it should be solved at the platform level. And then you almost need like an AI layer between the user and the docs to
Hmm.
like, if you need to go to the docs, it
Hmm.
should be smarter how I get to the doc that I need instead of
Yeah,
an
yeah,
old
yeah.
school, like I'm searching. It should be like, you should be able to cut out 95, 98% of the things that aren't relevant and show me like exactly what I want
Yeah.
these days or very close, like narrow down all the stuff. That would also be really helpful. Again, these are like very difficult problems on a site like .org, which is notoriously, I don't know, I've heard it's like very difficult to work with, kind of a lot of many years of code to work through. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough for sure.
Yeah, I'm sometimes surprised at how AI gets so good, but every other algorithm like search and things like that are still really bad. like
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
does the AI is like can recommend this thing, but like my Apple Music that knows everything I listen to is still recommending like bad music. Like they haven't like why is it that I can't search on Google for this thing, but I can ask it? It's crazy to me
Yeah.
the imbalance and stuff, but I think it'll work. It is relatively new when you think about it in the big picture, and if you
Yeah.
ignore the Twitter hype people, you're like, oh, it'll get there slowly, probably.
Yeah, it will probably get better. It will be better. It'll be good enough to solve most of these problems we're talking about without WordPress having to do too much more on the platform level. Because if
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
honest, like thinking about the effort that takes to do and fix, I mean, it's great that we have an AI team and they can figure out how to maybe expose some of this stuff to the models in a more consumable way. That I think that'll be huge and doable. But some of these other things where I'm like, yeah, I think the models will just catch up and hopefully this they're kind of like in a modern day space race for AI, which is awesome. Like everyone's trying to like make it better and better and better, and we're also eating the earth while we're doing it. But who cares? It's like getting me to the docks quicker. Yeah, so it's a good thing and a complicated thing at the same time.
How was your process setting up your course? I'm guessing you used full site editing and Ollie to like set up your course, and I saw your video looking at Jetpack and stuff. What
Mm-hmm.
was like the process of like I'm gonna actually build a course in WordPress and not go to like Thinkific or like some
Yeah.
other platform? Did it
Oh my
go okay?
God. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ollie, the site is on full site editing. It's built with Ollie naturally, and I'm also at this point like I like building in there, and I don't want to jam a plugin in there that looks different and does all these other things that I have to learn. Thing. I just wanted it to feel like just another part of my site. I just go in there, like I click the post type, the Sensei post type, and there's all my course lessons. So yeah, I use Sensei, which is a LMS.
That's
Sensei LMS, yeah, that's what it's called. That's automatic product, and I think I mentioned this in that Jetpack video. Is like I like it because like they build all their products with like a native mindset, and so that is important to me at this point. And that was the most native one I found. Was like it just feels like a custom post type in WordPress, and it's just got all the things around it where it's like modules, courses, and lessons hierarchy, and it was that simple. So yeah, I just again I think each video had each course had over 150 videos in it. So I had to like, I wanted to make sure it was clean and easy to scale as well. So it was like, okay, so I did that and then I ended up using VideoPress for all the videos so that I could host them somewhere. And that was a tough thing to decide because it was like, I could host them free on YouTube, but then you have to like do a bunch of YouTube embeds, and it just was like, it was something. I said yes to the courses from Frank, and I was like, well, shit, how do I was like, that's actually going to be a lot of work. And I was like, oh, I've already committed at this point. So I did search around a little bit. There's some other, can't remember, like LearnDash and other there's a lot of them out there these days, but that's a lot for what I needed. And I just, I knew these were going to be free, and I'm not even letting users register on the site. That was another thing, kind of a prerequisite. Was like, I don't want people registering on my site for anything. I don't want a bunch of user accounts on my site. In the past, I've done that, using WooCommerce and EDD, and you have a bunch of, I just want the Ollie site to be like a straight up read only, it's you go there. And so with Sensei, I was able to just open the courses up. You don't register, you just watch them for free. There's some things that are saved in local storage, like your progress and things like that, so that's cool. And it was relatively low key once I got the tools. Then it was just a matter of getting everything into WordPress, which was a process.
There's like a certain like visual expectation of what a course looks like online. It's like I want my like sidebar with all of my chapters and lessons and progress and stuff like that. Did you use their designs and stuff, or could you use the site editor for that, or did you have to go kind of custom?
Yeah, they have, that was another really cool thing I was surprised by, is in Sensei, they have some templates that are like full site editing ready. The view of the lesson view has its own thing where it's kind of like full screen. They have the content, they have the sidebar. And so they had like 3 or 4 of those layouts, which I thought was really cool. Me, the perpetual tinkerer, I wanted it to kind of sit in the site a little bit better. I wanted it kind of to be like our docs and our other video page. So I used their sidebar, which was cool because it has like the modules and they can open and close, and you kind of make your way down the list. So I took that part and popped it on the sidebar, and kind of it sits nicely in the site now. It looks great in there. But I was surprised because, I think Sensei has been around for quite a while, and I hadn't heard about it or thought about it ever over the past 5 or 10 years. And so when I went to the site and like you can try, like I'm just using the free version of it, I was like, holy shit, there's actually like decent full site editing support in here. So that was another selling point where I was like, this is the one, I'll just use this thing. So I was pretty surprised by that.
I was setting up some courses and stuff, and I got like the free LearnDash like license from someone. They were like, oh, try it out. And it was like, oh yeah, like I don't want all this stuff. Like I get why people want all that stuff, but like if you don't want all that, but I think it's a typical WordPress thing where like there's either the like completely crazy customized whatever solution that's like, and the UI feels like its own beast inside of WordPress, and it's this whole thing. And then there is, Sensei was very much like, I'm just adding blocks on a page. That's it. If I want to add like a quiz, just add a quiz block or whatever, like everything was super minimal. I guess it depends on what you need out of it, but like the fact that you're serving it publicly, and so it's all cached, it's probably like super fast. No one's logging in and like waiting for your server to load, probably keeping costs down and everything like that. That's probably a
super
lightweight
way to
go.
Super lightweight. And I think, to your point earlier where you said like, we're building custom blocks for things, and I think if you've been building in full site editing enough, you eventually find there's plugins out there that do that thing already.
Yeah.
And you don't have to. Like, I think that's important if you're going to dive into full site editing, is like making a list of these plugins that you can like really lean on. Like if you're going to be building the full site editing environment, it's like, okay, well, put down Sensei on your list because that's got full site editing support,
Yeah.
Block visibility is tied into that, like the icon block. These things are like native adjacent, and they're like, they fill in the gaps in a way that like you get enough of them, you don't have to build your own, likely. And if you do, maybe it's just like a light touch one.
Yeah, I had the issue of like every time I wanted a custom block, it was like, all right, download our 50 block library, and it was, and then a lot of it was premium and stuff. And I kind of think that I don't think there's going to be a huge market for like premium one-off blocks in the future. I think that's kind of, I don't know, especially when you're like getting close enough to be able to kind of throw stuff together. And honestly, I did a thing recently where I was like, honestly, I'm just going to throw block visibility on here. There'll be a couple extra blocks in the block editor because of some conditional stuff, but the front end will be clean. I don't have to write any
Yeah.
code. I know exactly how it's going to work. I can
Yeah.
continually tweak it in the editor without opening up a code, without opening the code base. Oh man, it was pretty good.
Isn't it cool though? Like I feel the same way. I'm redoing my personal site, which I just should have done a long time ago, but I'm obviously building it with Ollie and full site editing. But yeah, similarly, there's some things in the editor where I'm like, no, I'll just hack this thing together so quick. I'm not even going to write the CSS I could for it. And I'm just going to use this plugin to do it. And there's a certain freeing feeling about that where it's like hands off the wheel. It's like, no, this is it, baby. This is the future. I'm like, I'm removing myself from this thing and I'm just going to like, just do it. And I think it's fine and good and it'll keep getting better and cleaner. So like in the editor, it looks good too. But you know, right now it's like, it's perfectly acceptable.
Have you looked at the, I think like 10 Up released like a Figma it's like Figma and it makes your theme JSON, I think, or something like that. And it's like design stuff. Have you looked at that workflow? Like, cause you have the sort of like design to dev workflow really solid. Have you looked at like the like design mock up to site editor stuff and have like a workflow there?
Yeah, I did. I looked at theirs and I think VIP had one too, kind of like a Figma to WordPress token thing.
Yeah.
You know, I only get so far with them where I'm like, these are more trouble than they're worth almost. And maybe it's just my specific setup where I don't really need that anymore. I think if you are, you know, dealing with big clients like enterprise-y kind of clients, I think that workflow makes a lot more sense that you need something like that. But because Ollie now has, you know, our color palette, typography, all that kind of set in stone, I don't really need to do that. And again, from my experience, I haven't had success where it's like I'm able to get it to like port over exactly how I need to anyway. Yeah. So right now I just build them by hand and I'm so quick at doing them these days that it's not that much work to do.
Do you have a like roadmap of where you're going next with Ollie and like what it's like, do you have like hills you want to conquer in the future?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got plans, man. No, we just, you know, I just spent a quarter doing Ollie Pro 2.0, which kind of added that really cool site wizard and the starter sites feature, and that was a big that was huge. That was a big thing to do. I won't be doing anything big like that, but there's a lot of little gaps of things. Like I'm going to build kind of a suite of utility plugins. Already got several of them built where you can just kind of toggle them on and off and they add little fixes here and there, like annoyances, like reversing columns on mobile or, you know, there's like we have a hover colors one. I don't know if that's coming to core or not. We might turn that on and, you know, if you want to turn it off later, it will be totally clean and easy to do. Things like that, where it's like the people who are building with Ollie, like I think they're cool with what's largely what we're doing. And it's just like, well, how can we keep solving those littler problems? Because we're coming up on a year of Ollie Pro in July. And so, you know, I want to like make sure we're delivering for those people who bought and make sure they feel like they're getting their money's worth after all these years. And so, or after all these months. So there's that. There's always the idea of more patterns. There is an interesting problem that happens though with patterns in that like, there's only so many patterns you can really make to where if you look at the Ollie site now, like we present them almost as, they're called pattern collections, but they're almost like individual themes and there's 4 of them. And if you look at them just like that, you think, oh, well, they only got 4 pattern collections. But in those pattern collections, there's like 50 to 100 patterns each. Yeah. And because of the way site editing or full site editing works, you can pull those patterns down to your site and consume them onto your page and they take on the styles of your page. So it's kind of a little trick of the brain where you have to be like, you have to think of all of these patterns as viable options for your site, even if like they're maybe presented a little different way. So like, I want to add maybe some more patterns that like maybe a lot of people want like more blog style and maybe magazine style ones. I'm like a little less interested in that personally. It just introduces a lot more complexity. Where now I'm talking, people are asking about query loops and custom blog post layouts, and it's like, but you know, in the same way that people keep asking about WooCommerce, I'm like, they got their own thing coming. You just wait for them. They're gonna hook you up. And then I don't have to, you know, like would rather it be solved by WooCommerce, because you guys will do it so much better. And so at least
Yeah,
that's what I hear.
it's been interesting to watch that because, and you can find Ellen, who's sort of leading that charge. She's been on like, she's on like podcasts and WordCamp talks about it. So I think it's like all public, but like what she's basically like, I was like, all right, where's that Woo block thing? Because I thought you started a while ago, but what she ended up doing was like starting with, well, what does full site editing look like for a WooCommerce user? And it's like, oh no, there's like 100 pain points that have nothing to do with the theme. They have everything to do with the experience of, because like the big ones are like the checkout page is block based and the cart page is block based and your product page and queries and stuff. And it's like, so no matter how good the theme is, because like I said, like the theme is such a thin layer now on top of it, it's all the core experience in the editor, which has nothing to do with the theme. So she's been super focused on that, which is much needed.
That's huge.
And I feel like that's the step that kind of needs to happen. Like, I feel like every month somebody tweets like, hey, what needs to happen in WordPress? And we're all like, hey, I think we already told you. Hey, we know. We all know what it's going to be. We all know what the answers are. We can play this game again, but we all know where the road ends. And
yeah.
So like having that sort of like mentality of like, yeah, the issue is just fixing that user experience in the editor and giving those extra superpowers and stuff, because the theme layer at this point, all it has to do is turn it on. You know, it's like, oh, here's a new support, a new, hey, now I can do border radiuses as a design token. Thank you. Turn it on. Like that sort of stuff will be super easy.
Totally. Yes. And that's like, that's exactly the thing, how I feel about like with Ollie on there. It's like, if you turn Ollie on, it works pretty good. But usually the problems that arise between the two are just, they're not Ollie problems. They're not really WooCommerce problems. Well, they lean more that way. But it's like, yeah, it's just the gaps. There's gaps there. And I think filling in those gaps could make it so you turn on Ollie or any other block theme and it's like, no, it works pretty damn good out of the box, because those at the atomic level, it's fixed. And Ollie's great at working with all of the core blocks and not doing anything too opinionated, so that the spacings and paddings, all that kind of like will take on those atomic elements in a really nice way. So that would be great if we could do that and open that up for people. And people do use it, but I'm always hesitant to take on people are like, I had people reach out and say, will you make a WooCommerce pattern collection? And I closed my computer and never came back. No, it's a lot. It's a lot, because you end up, there's a lot of edge cases and dependencies once you're dealing with WooCommerce. And that's where I'm like, I don't know if I want to go down that road right now. Maybe if there was a really compelling reason to, but right now I feel hesitant.
Today actually is my fourth month, the end of my fourth month at WooCommerce. And I didn't do a lot of WooCommerce before. And I still turn a corner and see somebody doing a thing with their site where they're like, well, I don't need that feature. I need it to like, I don't need a subscription. I need the subscription to only do it every other month. But then if they buy this other product, and you're like, everybody has a million weird, and that's honestly why they're on WooCommerce, or they'd be on Shopify if they just wanted straightforward commerce. And you're like, oh yeah, so I don't envy anybody on our product teams or Ellen on the theme stuff, because no matter what gets shipped, everybody's gonna be like, well, that's not my use case.
Oh yeah. It's the gift and the curse of WordPress. I mean, the same is true on regular, even marketing sites. It's like, people are like, I want to do this and this and this, but not if it does this. And then you add e-commerce on top of that. It really like exacerbates it. Like, and then all of a sudden they're asking me about these things. It's like, dude, I don't know about your subscription. I'm the pattern guy. Okay. Like, but that's the awesome thing about WooCommerce, and that's why it's so popular, is that like you can bend it and flex it any way you want. It also makes it difficult to kind of improve it and update it in a like really meaningful way, I think, in the people want. It's like, no, you have to look at it like WordPress. It's like, it has to be like small steps to make sure that it can scale and go where it needs to go, you know?
Yeah, because we always get people in the comments, they're like, well, just make it do this. And you're like, oh, you don't understand. If we make it do that, this many people, it's going to break for them. Like every little decision, it's going to have ramifications and stuff. But I feel like probably, maybe this will be my closing question to you. There's probably like some general things that everybody wants to see in the next version of WordPress, or like Gutenberg specifically. I know the admin redesign has been talked about a lot as like a big piece of it. That's kind of, a clear one. But in terms of like functionality, responsive design, navigation block, if you had to pick one and put all of your resources towards it, which one would it be? Because I feel like those are the two. Those are the two like main stopping points for full site editing.
Yeah. You know, as much as I would love to say the responsive block, I don't get people asking me too much about that, which is surprising. I think, you know, the people who buy into Ollie are, I think, aware of the kind of fluid aspect of spacing and stuff like that, and so typography, and so they're kind of okay with that, I think, to some degree, and maybe they're tweaking where necessary. But the navigation block is something that like is so goofy. It's difficult to do, and there's like that view where it goes into the thin bar, and then like if you have a submenu item,
you can't see it.
Hides it.
Yes, I have
and
that today.
then it's like I have to explain that to people, and it just seems like I want to be careful here because I'm not knocking anybody, but it seems like a totally unacceptable thing that was shipped in a way, and that like when customers come to me and they're so angry about it, I'm like, I know, I have the same thing. I'm building, you know, I just added a drop menu item to the Ollie site the other day when I added these courses, and I was like, I can't see it. Where's it at? So I get it. So, you know, I think the navigation block has a much bigger impact short term right now, and I think the responsive stuff has a bigger like long tail benefit to the project, to where we can stop asking that question and we can stop losing people on that issue as well, where it's like, let's remove that from the conversation, responsive thing. Let's just fix it, do it. I'm being a little, you know, glib here. It's not that easy to just put it in there, but you know, if I can wave a magic wand and be like, let's do that, and then I feel like we're where we need to be to build this thing. Admin redesign will come, we'll get all that stuff, but like if we get those two things sorted out, we will be in good place. What about you? Which one do you pick?
Oh, which one do I pick? I tried to build a mega menu plugin to see if I could do it in the block editor, and the first thing I did was add CSS to make the header template part like full screen. I was like, there's no reason for it to be so thin and I have to like scroll to see everything. So like I need to find that and just like release that as a plugin. It's like, just make this full screen. Don't show me my little header in a tiny little thing. The edges I hit were really just, it needed to be in Gutenberg. Like there really wasn't a great way to build a really good mobile menu experience, or like mega menu experience inside the block editor without, I think Nick Diego did one that's like fine, but you got to like go to template parts and go to this.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
Like a lot of gluing things together. So I feel like, and I'm not even saying we need mega menus, but it feels like we have a visual editor. So like it should be able to build a visual menu. It's pretty standard what a mega menu looks like these days. I think it's feasible. And then I think the other piece is like this idea that like when you go to add something to your menu, and say you want to add a new link to your menu, you don't just put in the link. You have to find the block that matches the type of link. You're like, is it a category archive or is it a page?
Yeah.
And you're like, why do I have to keep adding blocks inside of blocks inside of blocks? Just like, I added the link. Just like, let me put in the link. You figure out if it's a category. You can tell me if it's a page, if it's a category. You can do all that for me. Let me just like say what I want to link to. And I think like that sort of experience of like, let's just make this a little simpler. I think that's the number one thing stopping people from full site editing, way more than responsive design, even though that's like the talked about thing. I think the navigation block is 100% the thing that people say, like, because responsive design is everything and people love the block editor and they've dealt with it and they've solved it in their workflow. The full site editing specifically, navigation block just makes it kind of a non-entry for like a lot of types of sites.
Yeah, you're right though. Like, I'm not all about mega menus either, but I think if WordPress can build that, it says something. You know, it says like, well, we're not effing around. Like, you can build that if you want to, and that means all these problems will have been solved if you can build that in there. And then I think like, I think that sets a great tone for kind of the rest of your site, because one of the first things people do is mess with their header, and that's like one of the first experiences. They're like, this is a colossal bummer, this thing. And so I think we actually lose a good amount of people there. Like, people get disheartened. That you want like a lot of early wins when you get somebody in something new. You want them to like those confidence building wins. And if you hit the header and you're like, first of all, you have to figure out that it's a template part and it's hidden in the pattern screen. And then you're like clicking there, you can't figure out how to get out. Like that alone is a thing, and then you're trying to mess with the menu. It's like, yeah, it's so let's put some brain power behind that, and
yeah,
we'll be in a good spot.
In the e-commerce world, mega menus are, I've learned,
Yeah.
very popular. Like showing all your categories and some products, and like mega menus are really big for e-commerce stores, and that's, I think, got to be a huge priority.
Does Woo have their own like mega menu solution?
I don't know. I should look into that. I haven't messed around with the theme side of it and the classic theme. They have like storefront is still like the default WooCommerce theme.
Yeah.
I mean, that theme's, older than my kids. Like it's been around.
That's crazy.
It's but I mean, obviously that's why they're prioritizing the block theme, which is awesome. I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna ever commit to some sort of mega menu. I think that's the same thing that everybody has, which is like some things just have to happen in core first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that, like, I think with somebody like Ellen driving like a block theme, and she knows the experience, she's sold Woo themes in the past, she knows what people want. I think hopefully she'll be, a good advocate for like solving some of these issues.
Ellen is awesome. Love Ellen.
Yeah. Where can people go to take the block theme development course and the block development course from Ollie?
Go to olliewp.com, hit enter, go to the header. In the header, there is a
Mega menu.
link, a mega menu. I wish. And it's in the header there. It's under docs or resource. I can't remember what it's called. I don't even know my own website. It's on there. You'll see it. It's
It was
under,
like Academy or something.
Yeah, it's called the Theme Academy and the Block Academy, and they're both linked on the docs page, and they're both free. You can watch them. You might even be able to download them on there. I think I marked them for that too. So do what you want with them. Learn if you're vibe coding. That's cool, but watch some of these for deeper context so that when you're deep in the vibes, you can keep vibing because you know where to go. So yeah, check out Ollie Pro. All that's on there. Check out olliewp.com.
Awesome. Thanks for hanging out, Mike.
Oh yeah, thanks, buddy.
Webmasters is hosted by me, Brian Cords. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like and subscribe, leave us a review, or share this episode. For more, visit webmasters.fm. Until next time.